Good evening, and tonight's review is the Whiskey of the Year as declared by Jim Murray, author of the Whiskey Bible. Now, Jim Murray has made some interesting declarations as to the Whiskey of the Year in past years. I recall in 2014 he said a whiskey from Australia was the best in the world. It was Sullivan's Cove. I bought that whiskey. I didn't like it. Really didn't like it. And years before that, he had declared Ballantine's Finest 17-year-old blended Scotch was the best whiskey in the world. I didn't have any objection to it, blended Scotch being the best whiskey in the world, because there are some blended whiskeys that are incredible, particularly Japanese whiskeys, Hibiki 17-year-old or 21-year-old, amazing. But I found Ballantyne 17 to be good, but not incredible. So me and Mr. Murray don't always agree. Sometimes, though, he does hit the nail on the head. Interesting this year, he declared a Canadian whiskey to be the best in the world, rated at 97.5 out of 100. And the Canadian whiskey is Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye. At 45% alcohol by volume, it probably has some kick. I bought this bottle last night for the grand price of $35 in Canada. It is selling out everywhere because Mr. Murray is kind of like, if he declares your whiskey to be the best in the world or in the top 5, it's kind of like an author having their book declared interesting by Oprah. So, we're going to try it. I tried this last night, made detailed notes, and going to try it again for you guys and ladies who may be interested. And then I'm going to get to my next whiskey that I just want as a counterpoint, another Canadian rye whiskey, Alberta Premium Dark Horse, but we'll get more to that in a minute. So what can I tell you about Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye? Besides Jim Murray saying it's 97.5 out of 100. It's $35 a bottle. And the nose, the aromas, not complex, not really impressive. I smell rye bread, which is not surprising. This is a rye whiskey. I smell damp wood, cinnamon, sawdust, toast. Let's go for a little sip. This is undiluted, haven't added any water. Initially, it's spicy. You're definitely getting a crusty rye bread note. It grips the palate. The whiskey is a little young. There's no age statement, and I'm not hung up on age statements, but when you drink the standard bottling of Crown Royal, it's smooth, it's refined. I wouldn't describe the whiskeys in the standard bottling of Crown Royal young or raw, but here it's a little wild. And that might be the rye, but I think the rye is young. The finish, you're left with ginger, tingling winter mint, and fine pepper. It's not smoked, it's not peated, it's Canadian whiskey. It's not bad, it's mild, it's smooth. Like Canadians, I'm Canadian, and at first when I heard this was Whiskey of the World, I was excited. But as I taste this, it tastes like good value for money. It's $35. It's pretty good. Rye whiskey, rye gives a lot of spice, bite, copper notes. I like rye in whiskey, especially in American whiskey like bourbon. Rye contributes a lot. A lot of the spice. Corn, it tends to be sweeter and smooths it out. And in this whiskey, it's good. It's not great, and it's not what I would call complex. Now, I wouldn't compare this whiskey to Scotch whiskey. Scotch is a very different flavor profile. You're working with barley. Barley can produce tremendous complexity. I like Scotch a lot, and but this Canadian whiskey, in my opinion, is not anywhere near the best whiskey available on the market. It's good, it's middle of the road, but I do taste a distinct young, raw whiskey note that shouldn't be there at $35 under the label Crown Royal. I am a bit disappointed. I think it's absurd to say this is the whiskey of the year, world whiskey of the year. In fact, I think the whole category, world whiskey of the year, it's really a dangerous thing to say. I mean, tastes are subjective, but even in a group of 40, like I once had a whiskey tasting, there were 40 people there, and we rated the whiskeys. And what is interesting is that the whiskey all of us seem to not like, over 80-90% of the participants rated a Royal Lochanar. That was $140 a bottle. Nobody liked it. I didn't like it. Nobody liked it. And the whiskey that was rated near the top, there were two. There was a Craigenmore Distiller's Edition and an Oban Distiller's Edition that everybody seemed to put in their top 5. And then after that there was some sort of, it wasn't as consistent. But I think everybody can agree that the ride in a Rolls Royce is better than in a Skoda or a Hyundai. And there's a huge difference in price, but you can tell the difference in quality. For $35, this is okay. For $30, Alberta Premium Dark Horse is better. Now, before I go to Alberta Premium Dark Horse, you could take Crown Royal Harvest Rye, Northern Harvest Rye, and use it as mix. And if you use it as mix at $35 for a 750 milliliter bottle, I think you'd be okay. It's not a lot of money, and it would probably be a very effective mix with ginger ale. But on its own, mediocre. I'm astounded. So, put that there. I could add a little bit of water. And water doesn't do much for this. Just get a little bit of this, never use tap water. Water doesn't help it. Okay. So that's what I think. I don't think this should be whiskey of the year. This is better than that. And this is Alberta Premium Dark Horse. This is, I think, 90% rye whiskey with some other elements in it. A bit of port. Was it port or sherry? Sherry was added to this. Not sherry casks used, but actual sherry was added in a little bit, just a little bit. And 8% of this is corn whiskey. This, I think, is 90% rye, 45% alcohol by volume, and in Canada, $30. And it's so new, I bought it tonight, and I haven't even opened it. And I should have thought of that with where I got a video online here with you guys watching me. And darn, I may have to go get a knife to open this. Come on, Jason, people are watching you. You're supposed to be professional. Here we go. Okay. Twist off cap. No cork. There's no cork with that either. This is darker. On the nose, this is more pronounced. There's no age statement here with Dark Horse, but with Dark Horse you're dealing with older whiskey. 12-year-old rye whiskey and 6-year-old small pot rye whiskey. And 8% corn whiskey, as I said before. And it's aged in American oak that was heavily charred. So the nose, vanilla, caramel, definitely rye. The palate, orange, nutmeg, dried fig, red licorice, black tea. Good, smooth. You're not tasting anything young in here. And it's cheaper than that. This is so good. You can taste a little bit of the sherry in it. You almost think there's port in it. It's got prune-like quality. I wouldn't use this as mix. Drink this on its own. You could add water. I prefer not to. Oh, it's got a long finish on this. Long finish. It's gorgeous. Do I need water? I don't know. I'll shake her around. Still good. Water makes it silky. Oh, I like this so much. I'm going to end this review now because my reviews do tend to go too long. I got a little piece of paper here with a note. This is not the whiskey of the world. This is a disappointment. It's okay. For $35, it's decent. I don't know what Jim Murray is doing. In his top 5, he didn't mention any Scotch whiskey. My personal theory is that Mr. Murray is thumbing his nose at the whiskey establishment. He always seems to choose a whiskey of the year other than Scotland. Sullivan's Cove from Australia, Yamazaki from Japan, which actually is a good choice. Probably next year, as my friend Ken said, it'll probably be Amrut Fusion from India, anywhere but Scotland. And that's not bad to promote world whiskies. But when we talk about Canadian whiskey, and we talk about Canadian whiskey in the $30 to $40 category, this is not exceptional. Alberta Premium Dark Horse is. They're both at 45% alcohol by volume. They're both similar in price. They both don't have any age statement. This is far better. And this, unfortunately, will do a disservice to Canadian whiskey because people all over the world will try this and go, what? You know, I thought it would be really complex. I thought it'd be interesting. It's not. You want a great Canadian whiskey under $100? There are several. Gibson's Finest Rare 18-year-old, you're looking at about $70. Masterson's 10-year-old rye whiskey, $100. Canadian Club 20-year-old whiskey, $60. A very good whiskey. Canadian Club 20-year-old whiskey, $60. That should be whiskey, world whiskey. That is a great representation of Canadian whiskey. This is not. In fact, I would prefer the standard Crown Royal over this. And it's not because I don't like rye. I love rye. Just not this one so much. And my final thought is Crown Royal makes some great products. There was Crown Royal Cask number 16, which they discontinued. They took Canadian whiskey, aged it in French oak that previously held cognac. It was a dream. $99 a bottle. It didn't sell. They discontinued it. So, Canadian whiskey, there are great ones. It's just not this one. Mr. Murray, I disagree. But I thank you, Mr. Murray, because you bring attention to the whiskey of the world and you make people try a great product. Cheers.